When we picture a classroom, we usually expect the person standing at the front of the room to hold all the answers. But the transfer of knowledge rarely moves in a strict top-down line from an authority figure directly to a student. You've likely experienced a moment where a dense concept suddenly feels accessible, not through a formal lecture, but because a classmate used a specific phrase or analogy that actually aligned with how you think. Recognizing and harnessing that sideways flow of information is the central premise behind peer learning. At its baseline, peer learning is a collaborative process. Students work together to share ideas, compare their answers, and solve problems as a unit. When a learner takes a rigid textbook definition and translates it into their own everyday vocabulary, their grasp of the material completely tightens. They have to actively process the mechanics of the idea in real time, rather than passively receiving audio from a lecture. By forcing a student to articulate a concept out loud, they organically test and reinforce their own structural understanding of the subject. Peer teaching takes this dynamic a step further. Instead of simply studying together, students assume explicit instructional duties for parts of the lesson. This workflow flowchart maps how duties are distributed. One node explains a concept, passing information to a second node providing an example, before a third summarizes the idea. Notice the explainer. The teaching student experiences the deepest cognitive retention. The act of instructing someone else serves as a mechanical tool for the teacher to master the material themselves. Implementing this framework starts with small adjustments, like a short targeted peer discussion. You can prompt the class to quickly compare their answers or share examples with a partner. Even a micro-interaction lasting just 2 minutes forces the brain to switch from receiving mode into active processing. A second strategy involves delegating the explanation of specific micro-concepts directly to the class. You might pause and ask, "Can someone explain this idea in the simplest terms possible?" To answer that prompt, the speaking student has to internally simplify and organize the logic of the concept before they open their mouth. These rapid moments of interaction build immediate self-confidence, while creating a much clearer logical structure in the student's mind. Another strategy is peer feedback, where students mutually evaluate each other's work. This diagram shows a continuous 3-part feedback loop, where students review an assignment, suggest improvements, and offer alternative ideas for revision. By navigating this cycle, students identify logic gaps in their peers' work they might overlook in their own. This collaborative framework translates directly into virtual and online classrooms as well. Instead of leaning over a desk, students interact through chat threads, small group breakout rooms, and shared digital workspaces. In isolated virtual environments, setting up these collaborative mechanics is an effective way to keep students focused on the material. Peer learning relies on a tactical decision to step back and let students occasionally direct the flow of the explanation. When that shift occurs, students think with greater clarity, participate with confidence, and retain the material longer. Because sometimes the most effective instructor for a struggling learner is simply the peer sitting right beside them. By placing the agency of instruction back into the hands of the students, the classroom moves through material with a shared momentum that lasts well after the bell.